It was a quiet Tuesday evening at Rosewood Diner, a small but warm restaurant tucked on the corner of 5th and Maple in downtown Chicago. The dinner rush had slowed, and most tables were nearly empty, except for one. Near the window, an elderly blind woman named Helen sat alone, her white cane resting against the chair beside her, her hands folded patiently on the table. She had been sitting there for nearly 20 minutes. People walked past her, some glancing briefly before looking away, no one stopping, no one offering a word. She did not complain. She did not call out. She simply waited, the way people wait when they have learned that the world does not always stop for them. A man named Daniel sat 2 tables over, nursing his coffee, watching quietly. He was a businessman in his mid-40s, still in his work suit, tie loosened, the kind of man who had seen enough of the world to know what kindness looked like when it was real and when it was performance. He had been watching for a while now, noticing how every staff member had passed Helen's table without a second glance. He said nothing. He just watched. Then Marcus came out of the kitchen. Marcus was 23 years old, still in his first year at the diner, working double shifts to pay for night school. He had a way of scanning the room when he walked in, like he was doing a quiet inventory of who needed what. He noticed Helen immediately. He didn't hesitate, didn't pause to check if she was someone else's table. He walked straight to her, pulled out his notepad, and said warmly, "Good evening, ma'am. I'm so sorry you've been waiting. My name's Marcus, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. What can I get for you?" Helen's face shifted. The tension in her shoulders eased just slightly, and she smiled. A real smile. The kind that comes when someone finally sees you. "Just the chicken and rice, please, dear," she replied softly. Marcus took the order, went to the kitchen, and returned in 15 minutes with a warm plate. But he didn't just set it on the table and walk away. He sat beside her for a brief moment, quietly helping her locate each item on the plate. The fork at 10 o'clock, the rice on the left, the chicken on the right, making sure she was comfortable before stepping back. He refilled her water without being asked. He checked on her twice more before the meal was done. Daniel watched every single second of it, setting his coffee cup down slowly. When Helen finished her meal, she folded her napkin carefully and called out, "Excuse me, young man." Marcus was at her side in seconds. "How much do I owe you tonight?" she asked, reaching for her small purse. Marcus smiled, though she could not see it. "Ma'am, your meal is on me tonight. Please don't worry about it." Helen shook her head firmly. No, you've already been too kind. I insist on paying." Her voice was gentle but certain. There was dignity in it. She was not the kind of woman who accepted charity easily. Marcus understood this immediately. "All right, ma'am," he said respectfully. "Your bill comes to $12. Helen opened her purse, counted the bills carefully by touch, and held out the money. "Please take exactly 12 from this," she said. Marcus took the exact amount, returned the rest to her hand, and placed her change directly in her palm, not on the table. It was a small thing, but it was everything. It meant she didn't have to reach, didn't have to feel around, didn't have to ask again. He had thought of that without being told. Daniel was still watching. He had barely touched his food. He watched Marcus walk Helen to the door, steady her as she found the handrail on the steps outside, and wait on the sidewalk until her driver pulled up. He watched Marcus open the car door for her. He watched Marcus stand there until the car disappeared around the corner. Then Marcus turned and walked back inside, his expression no different than before. No pride, no performance, just calm, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Daniel looked down at his plate. He picked up his fork, but he wasn't really eating anymore. He was thinking. Marcus came back inside, moved to a new table, took another order, refilled 2 coffees, and kept moving. He did not glance toward Daniel. He did not seem to register that anyone had noticed anything. That was the thing that stayed with Daniel the most, the total absence of audience awareness in everything Marcus had done. There was no looking around to see if anyone was watching, no lingering near Helen's table longer than necessary, No loud voice or dramatic gesture. Just quiet, consistent, unhurried kindness from the moment he spotted her to the moment her car turned the corner. Daniel had been in business for 20 years. He had managed hundreds of employees. He had seen people perform kindness in front of clients, perform generosity at charity dinners, perform humility in board meetings. He knew what performance looked like. This was not that. This was a 23-year-old kid working a double shift at a diner on a Tuesday night, treating a stranger with more genuine care than most people show their own families. Daniel thought about his own office, about the number of times he had walked past someone who needed help and told himself he was too busy, about the number of small moments he had let pass because they didn't feel important enough. He finished his meal slowly. When he was done, he asked for his check, paid it, his bill was $31, and left the table. As he walked toward the door, he paused. He turned back, reached into his jacket pocket, and pulled out a white envelope he had been carrying since that morning, meant for something else entirely. He set it under his plate. He placed a small folded note on top of it. Then he left the diner without saying a word to anyone. Marcus came to clear the table 20 minutes later. He wiped it down from habit, then noticed the envelope under the plate. He picked it up, glanced around. The man was already gone. He unfolded the note first. It was written on the back of a business card in neat, firm handwriting. He read it slowly. "My meal was $31. The rest is for you. I've spent 20 years believing that most people are only kind when someone is watching them, when there's something in it for them. Tonight you sat with a blind woman, helped her find her fork, walked her to her car, and waited until she was safe, and you did all of it without looking around once to see if anyone noticed. I noticed. I want you to know, good people still exist. You are one of them. Use this however you need to." Daniel. Marcus opened the envelope. His hands slowed. Inside was $1,000 in cash. He stood at that empty table for a long moment, the noise of the diner continuing around him, glasses clinking, the kitchen calling out an order number, a family near the back laughing about something. He didn't move. He read the note a second time, then a third. His eyes filled and he pressed his lips together hard, the way you do when you're trying to hold something in. He had been saving for months to cover his next semester's tuition. He was $300 short and had been quietly dreading the conversation with the financial office. He had not told anyone. He had just kept working, kept showing up, kept doing the job the way he believed it should be done, not because he expected a reward, but because he didn't know how to do it any other way. He folded the note carefully and put it in the front pocket of his apron. He would keep it there for the rest of the shift. He would read it 2 more times before he clocked out. He would take it home and put it somewhere he could find it on the hard days, the days when the work felt invisible and the world felt indifferent. Because sometimes that is all it takes. One person who sees you, one note that says, "I was watching, and what you did mattered." Part 5. 3 weeks later, Daniel walked back into Rosewood Diner on a Friday evening. He had thought about the place more than once since that Tuesday night. He sat at the same table, ordered the same coffee. Marcus was not on shift at first, and Daniel thought maybe he had missed him. But 20 minutes in, Marcus came through the kitchen door, mid-conversation with a co-worker, laughing about something. He did a sweep of the room the same way he always did, and his eyes landed on Daniel. He paused for just a second, recognizing him. Then he walked over. "You came back," Marcus said. "I did," Daniel replied. He gestured at the chair across from him. "Sit for a minute if you can." Marcus hesitated, glanced at the floor manager, who gave a small nod, and sat down. They talked for nearly half an hour. Daniel asked about school, about what Marcus was studying, about where he wanted to go. Marcus told him about his program in business administration, about his long-term goal of opening a community center in his neighborhood, about how he had grown up watching people fall through the cracks of systems that were supposed to catch them, and had spent most of his life quietly trying to be one of the people who caught them instead. Daniel listened without interrupting. When Marcus got up to return to work, Daniel slid a card across the table. "I run a logistics company. We have a management internship program. I want you to apply. Not as a favor, not because of the other night, because you have the kind of instincts that most people spend years trying to train and never quite get." Marcus looked at the card. He looked up at Daniel. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. Daniel thought for a moment. "Because kindness never goes in only one direction," he said. "And because someone should have done this for me when I was your age and no one did. I've been making up for that ever since." Marcus nodded slowly, pocketed the card, and went back to work. On his way to the next table, he passed the window. The same window where Helen had sat 3 weeks ago in the fading evening light, waiting without complaining, simply trusting that someone decent would eventually come. He looked at it for a moment. Then he moved on, refilling a coffee, smiling at a child who was trying to reach a menu, just doing the next small thing that needed doing. The room around him was warm and full of noise, and somewhere across the city, Helen was having dinner with her daughter, telling her about the young waiter at Rosewood who had helped her find her fork, and had waited on the sidewalk until she was safely in her car and had made her feel, for the first time in a long time, like she mattered. She did not know his name. She would never stop thinking about him. Drop a heart if you believe quiet kindness is the most powerful force in the world. And subscribe, because stories like this deserve to be told.